Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. So in case this is your first time on this channel or you are a returnee, please do well to subscribe so that you can get immediately notified once I release new videos. So today I'm going to be sharing with you on my own dissertation journey, specifically on how I was able to narrow down my research focus from broad ideas to a narrow path. To start with, I'm going to take you through introducing myself, providing some of the general rules that worked for me. I'll discuss how my research questions and topic evolved through my comprehensive exam stage, dissertation proposal stage, and the final dissertation. And finally, you'll be learning some tips that helped me to be effective in this journey. To start with, my name is Omodolapo Ojo. I graduated May 2025 from my doctoral degree program in the University of North Carolina, Greensboro, specifically in educational research methodology with specialization in program evaluation. So, what do you do when you already have your research focus or your areas of interest that you really want to go into? So, for some of you that you haven't even come up with any research area that is relevant in your field, please do well to go into the comment section below and you will see there a link which you can follow, and I've provided some helpful information and materials that could help you in order to navigate through this journey. And if you feel you need some consultations with me as well, you can use the link and we can always have conversation on how you can spot relevant research area of your interest and that is very important in the literature. So today I'm just going to be sharing with you on how I was able to go from a broad research area to a narrow research focus, and I did my dissertation in due time. So one thing is, when I was able to read the literature, I searched within myself, what are the things that interest me? Then I came up with this topic first: centering evaluative thinking with a social justice, an approach to understanding organization capacity building role in of evaluation policy. So this is just a topic that I came up with initially, and based on my interest and also having situated it within literature that I went through, I came up with these three questions. What are the organization capacity building rules of evaluation policy? What is evaluation policy system, nature, consequences, and its organizational capacity building rules? What's the relevance of evaluative thinking in the organization capacity building rules of evaluation policy? What is evaluative thinking, its connection and relevancy in the capacity building rule of evaluation policy? The third question was, using social justice lens, how is evaluative thinking featured in organizational capacity building employed during the development, implementation, and evaluation of that same policy? Then what conditions, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats were presented, especially having to take the case of policy with organizations like the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, National Science Foundation, or other notable organizations, and consider real data collection as well, since it's a dissertation on people working in this area. So this is the initial idea I came up with. And to me, I felt this is what I really want to do. And I shared with my dissertation committee. And when they reviewed it, come see the feedback they gave to me. So, and because of that feedback, actually, my topic evolved to centering social justice in evaluation capacity building. But before I talk about how this topic even came to be in the first place, so one of my dissertation committee someone that I respect so much, Dr. Newcomer, Dr. Catherine Newcomer, told me, "Oh, thank you, Dolapo, for sharing this question and for sharing this research area." And she immediately told me that I've taken too much. And just like you see in the question that I shared with you, and look at it again, look at the topic. The topic alone has like about 3 areas, and the questions are just too broad. I wanted to study evaluation policy, evaluation capacity building, evaluative thinking, applying social justice in understanding this. These are 3 major areas that I really wanted to study, but I didn't realize that until I got this feedback from my dissertation committee, who were very kind enough to let me know that evaluative thinking is a great topic, evaluation policy is a great topic, evaluation capacity building is also a great topic, and using social justice lens to study all of these topics is also a great topic as well. But I was encouraged to choose just one of it. And one of my dissertation committee member also let me know in the person of Dr. Catherine Newcomer and told me, "Oh, Dolako, you have to make sure that you don't even go into evaluation policy aspect of things." And I was like, "Why?" Then she told me that, well, getting people to participate in your data collection could be a problem. And I was like, okay, let me then go for another interest of mine, which is evaluation capacity building. So as a result of that, she also gave me some kind of ideas that, okay, why not use social justice lens in understanding this topic, which is part of what I gave out as my area of interest initially. He told me, okay, some of these your questions, especially this question, everything is still okay, but just make sure you go with a piece of it, not 3 areas, but just one area. So that's the first step that happened. So now that I've been able to get my research area, I've been able to share with my dissertation committee, and we've talked over it, then it's time for me to do my comprehensive exam. For many of you who don't really have a lot of information or would have information about this, so comprehensive exam is actually that qualifying exams that you take when you have completed all your research work, or maybe you have completed the required number of research work you need to do before you do your dissertation. And passing this exam is actually an indication that you are fit to do an independent research. And it's also an indication that you have mastered knowledge in your field. So when I was trying to put questions together for this comprehensive exam as well, now that I have a topic, I went to frame the topic better, and I decided to focus on understanding organizational evaluation capacity building using social justice lens. So one of my first questions was trying to understand what culturally responsive and social justice oriented evaluation is, trying to understand the role of ontology, epistemology, and axiology in culturally responsive and social justice oriented evaluation approaches. So I was also planning to compare and contrast several evaluation approaches under this culturally responsive and social justice evaluation. And at the same time, I also would like to understand what the role of evaluators are in each of these approaches. And again, as a kind of study that I have put forward, I need to explain my positionality, how it relates to the work that I'm doing. So my first question, of course, was basically on the theoretical aspect, while the second question actually delved much more into the area that I want to study, which is what is organization capacity building, organizational evaluation capacity building in the first place, what does organizational evaluation capacity building bring to various stakeholders, and how is this organizational evaluation capacity building discussed in literature? So whether in organizations, in states, in national, international, or global settings. Then what research or study is conducted on them in terms of the needs, the theories, the strategies? These were the questions that I put out for my comprehensive exam. So the third question was actually helping me to understand what methods and approaches have been used in studying this organizational evaluation capacity building. Then what critical elements are needed to build organizational ECB. So I'll just be saying ECB instead of saying evaluation capacity building to conduct a culturally responsive and social justice evaluation. So eventually, this was what I decided to study, and this was what my comprehensive exam was centered on, of which I did for 2 weeks. So I did the comprehensive exam. Of course, I passed, and having passed that stage, I needed to move to the proposal stage. So the proposal stage is a stage where you are able to present a research agenda, stating clearly what the problem statement is, why that study is necessary, where you have to put out what literature has in that topic, and your methodology that you would want to use to do the study. So at this proposal stage, I also did some kind of revision to what I had previously in my comprehensive exam. So now I decided to take it to the level of exploring equity in stakeholder values engagement in ECB in Africa and the United States of America. So just like you see here, where my cursor is working on, I try to understand to what extent are ECB efforts in Africa equitable and inclusive of diverse stakeholder values? How does the conceptualization and implementation of ECB attend to engagement of diverse stakeholder values and contents in country name? To what extent do funders influence ECB intervention in country name? How do existing ECB in the country that I selected compared to the United States? And I decided to also say, okay, what are existing frameworks and strategies, and what are promising approaches for embedding these equitable and inclusive values of stakeholders in ECB? Let me first clarify that getting to reframe my topic and my question to this level was as a result of some of the information that I gathered during the course of my comprehensive exam. So I understood better how to frame things. I understood better what exactly are the real issue that needed to be studied. Because at the level of the comprehensive exam, I was still a bit broad in terms of what I want to study. But having gone through the comprehensive exam, it helped me to understand further what narrow parts to actually still take further. But the limitation to this question now was that when I presented it to my committee, they were of the opinion that studying Africa is too much. That why not make it smaller? Africa is a whole continent. So as a result of that, I went further again. I reframed the topic to exploring equity in stakeholder values engagement in ECB in Anglophone West African countries and the United States of America. So if you look at the questions here and the question, if you look at the question in the left and that in the right, you will understand that some of the questions have actually changed. Especially, I replaced Africa with Anglophone West African countries. At least Africa, it's a lot of country compared to just Anglophone West African countries. And at this time, I kind of rearranged the questions by starting first, what are existing ECB design and implementation in Anglophone West Africa? What are the framework and strategies used? To what extent are these efforts equitable and inclusive of diverse stakeholder values? How does the conceptualization and implementation of this ECB attend to diverse stakeholder values? What are funders' influence and what are promising approaches? So at the same time, when I wrote out this question, I still got feedback from my dissertation committee letting me know that, well, I may have actually brought down my focus from Africa to Anglophone West African countries, but the fact still remains that these countries are many. I should find a way to make my context smaller. Now we have agreed on the question that the questions are okay, but the focus is just too wide. That was the feedback I got. So on that note, I then made the context smaller by proposing another topic or adjusting the topic that I had by replacing Anglophone West African country to Nigeria and the United States. Now, see where I'm coming from. Initially, I was focused on the whole of Africa. Then, based on feedback, I moved to Anglophone West Africa. Then, based on another feedback, I now moved to Nigeria and the United States. And another feedback I got again was that the questions I still wanted to study were kind of much. And as a result of that, I decided to condense the question to this that you have displayed on the screen. So I then moved to how do existing ECB design and implementation in Nigeria compared to that in the United States, the framework and strategies, how do they differ, stakeholders' engagement, their values in terms of equity and inclusion, how does it differ? Then how does the conceptualization and implementation attend to diverse stakeholder values and contexts in Nigeria? To what extent do funders influence ECB, and what are promising approaches for embedding equitable and inclusive values stakeholders in ECB? So again, I got another feedback. So, but the feedback at this point is that I should try to make sure that the questions should be reduced, because if you look at the question that I showed initially compared to this, you know that there's a bit reduction. And again, the exact topic that I later studied for my proposal became even better refined, because at that point I was very sure that I would use a mixed method study. I would use a mixed method approach to this study. Then I decided to reframe the topic as equitable and inclusive values engagement in ECB, a mixed method cross-examination of Nigeria and the United States. You know, at this point now, I'm now very sure, okay, having established what is in the literature and having established what interests me to study, then having understood that a mixed method approach would be a good way to go, then I came up with this topic and then reduced the number of the questions to those that are very, very important. So I then began with how and in what ways is ECB designed and implemented in Nigeria and the United States? How does the framework and strategies implemented in these two countries compare to each other? What are the similarities and differences in terms of equity and inclusion in the context? And to what extent are these ECB efforts in Nigeria equitable and inclusive of diverse stakeholder values? What role and influence the funders have on ECB in Nigeria? And what are promising approaches and strategies for equitable and inclusive stakeholder values engagement in ECB in Nigeria? So you see now, the first aspect of the question was focused on the two countries. But if you look at the later aspect of the questions, they were much more focused on Nigeria, because Nigeria was much more pronounced in terms of this equitable and inclusion need. So that was the reason for that, making it more narrow. So this is the final question and topic that my research, my proposal actually focused on. So now going to the full dissertation stage. At the full dissertation stage, as a doctoral student, it is expected that you are able to present your research report showing your research process, your data collection process, if you are a pure science person, how you conducted your experiment, and having established that, you are able to also provide your own contribution to knowledge. So it is at this point that you have actually, if you're able to present your report and it is approved, it is at this stage then you can say that you have completed the other aspect of your doctoral degree. So for my final dissertation, I didn't change the topic at all. It still remains equitable and inclusive values engagement in evaluation capacity building, a mixed method cross-examination of Nigeria and the United States of America. So, of course, the topic, the questions didn't change too much. I was still focused on what ways are ECB designed and implemented in Nigeria, how do the framework and strategies implemented compare to those in the United States, and what are some similarities and differences in terms of equity and inclusion? To what extent are the ECB efforts equitable and inclusive of diverse stakeholder values? What role and influence the funders have, and what promising approaches and strategies for equitable and inclusive stakeholder values engagement in ECB in Nigeria? So, let me quickly share with you tips that helped me to navigate successfully the process of developing both my research questions, my research topic, in order to just help in clarifying how I moved from that broad topic, that broad area of research where I had three major areas and focused on one. And even in focusing on that one, I still went a lot of evolution, evolving from one state to another until I got to the final state. What were the things that helped me individually? As a person, I ensure that I identify a relevant and purposeful research area that is not just interesting to me, but it is established in literature that is worthwhile studying. I've told you, for many of you that are coming to this video, you're watching this video right now, and you don't even have a research area at all that you have spot. What you can do is just follow the link in the comment section below, and you see there some of the information and materials that I've provided that will help you in order to establish a research area in your own field that is not just interesting to you, that is also relevant out there, and it established in the literature that is worthwhile. You know, Another thing that helped me was that I avoided too much changes to my research question, except for technical reasons, because I'll tell you, as a researcher, you are tempted. Personally, I was tempted. I can't even count how many number of times I was tempted to change my research question, to change my research topic, to change my research focus. But I just made up my mind that no, this is what I want to study, and I just will study it and let it go. Then, one thing again that helped me in navigating through this process effectively was that my research questions, I always put it on the page of every chapter. Every chapter of my research questions, I ensure that every chapter of my research work, I ensure that my research question is on the first page. So each time I'm writing, I'm able to go back to the question again and be sure that, okay, what I'm still doing, what I'm still writing, even when I'm analyzing data, I ensure that that question is very close to the data I'm analyzing. Why? Because I want to be sure that I'm not deviating from the research question. Then, one thing again that helped me was that I took ownership of the process. No one can understand the topic as deeply as I did. Yes, I have a dissertation committee that are very established in the area of my work, but at the same time, I'm the one who knows what exactly is in the research area for me. So I took ownership of it. Like I've explained to you, I got the topic area, I shared with them, and they were able to advise me to change, to make it better and better. And that really helped me to really know that yes, this process, I'm still in charge, I'm still taking over. So a collaborative aspect of this process that helped me was I ensured that I kept one-on-one communication with each of my dissertation committee. I made sure that at every stage I'm able to communicate with them. Oh, please, this is what I'm going through right now, just for your information, or please, what can you tell me? So not just collaborative communication. I first engage in them first in one-on-one communication before I engage in them in group collaboration, because by that they will have an idea of what I want to discuss, not just me coming out to them and letting them know all of a sudden. Then I ensure that I engage with my share force. So whatever information that I want to even share with other dissertation committee, I make sure that myself and my dissertation share, we have established a common understanding of what I want to do. Like, okay, Dr. Ayu, this is what I want to do. This is the next stage. And once we come to an agreement, then I can share with other dissertation committee. Then one big thing again is for every feedback I was provided, I ensure that I went through them and implemented them, because when a dissertation committee takes their time to review your work as a doctoral student or even as a master student, and you do not take time to go through the feedback and implement them very well, it can be frustrating. So these were the things that I did that helped me to navigate this process effectively, bringing down from my broad area of research interest to a narrow aspect. So I believe this information would help you. And in case you want to get across to me, please reach me on that email and on that website. Thank you and bye for now.